The Chiefs made some surprising roster moves yesterday. Fans are confused, but we're going to talk about it and explain it. It's going to make sense in the end. Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast
for that ass.
You know what to do. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's freaking go.
You're listening to All Chiefed Up.
The Chiefs made a lot of crazy moves today, Steve, with some fans wondering what the hell was going on. You've seen a lot of weird moves. Looked like Brett Veach was jumping through hoops all day, and the Chiefs didn't even release the roster to the public till almost 4 or 5 hours after the deadline.
Surprise.
Is it even a roster cut down day if the Chiefs aren't waiting till the end of the night? Brett Veach must have took a nap, Steve.
Always, every time you have to wait and finally get it. But yeah, a lot of fans are confused by what happened. A lot of guys weren't on the roster that they thought should be. There were some surprising IR guys. There's a lot to talk about and unravel here, man. So let's do that and let's kind of explain what the Chiefs are going to do, because you have to understand this roster is going to look completely different within a week. So there are reasons why they do these things. You have to set things in motion. You have to let the first domino fall. And I think that's what Brett Veach did today with the 53-man roster.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It could look a lot different by the time you're actually watching this video. They're going to put in some claims for waivers. They're going to do some different things. They were jumping through hoops today, Steve. You've seen a lot of people confused as to why Robert Tonyan and Mike Pennell did not make this team. Steve, there's a lot to explain here, but in the simplest terms is these guys have accrued enough seasons in the NFL that they do not have to clear waivers. So Tonyan and Pennell can essentially just sit back, let the Chiefs do some stuff for a few days, and then they can be re-signed right back to the team and put back on the 53-man roster.
Right, so Robert Tonyan and Mike Pennell, they could both get back on this roster in one way or another. I'm pretty sure that Mike Pennell's been cut from this roster before. I could be wrong about that, but he always made his way back, and I think you could see that happen again. But up front, they needed Elijah Mitchell on the roster just because of the health of Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. Isaiah Pacheco has a pretty extensive injury history in a short time in the NFL, and we all know he runs like a wild man, and it could come at any moment. Kareem Hunt, he's not a spring chicken. He's 30 years old, and that would just leave Brashard Smith by himself. So I think Elijah Mitchell is kind of an insurance plan on this roster just in case there's an injury at that position. And then as far as wide receiver goes, they were able to keep 8 wide receivers, which seems excessive, right? But you know that Rashee Rice is going to get suspended, and also Jalen Royals has this mystery knee injury going on.
Yeah.
They've been calling it tendonitis, but maybe there's more to it. They're talking about still maybe putting him on the IR. So we really don't know what's going on there. And with Jason Brownlee, I just think with the Rashee Rice suspension looming, and also the fact that he actually performed pretty well in the preseason, I think they wanted to keep him on the roster for now just in case.
Yeah, we thought that Carson Steele wasn't going to make the team. I was kind of iffy on that going back to the preseason right at the very beginning. I thought that there was a place for him. The longer it got, it seemed as though Elijah Mitchell and Carson Steele were on the outs. Come to find out, Carson Steele definitely was on the outs. But there was a guy that Seattle dropped today, Steve, Damian Martinez. He was picked 5 picks before we took Brashard Smith. I'm curious to see if the Chiefs, who give him a top 30 visit, maybe goes back and tries to put a waiver claim in on him. And then getting back to Jason Brownlee, I really like what Brownlee was able to offer the Chiefs throughout the preseason. He gives you that back shoulder fade. He gives you that big X receiver. And like you said, look, Rashee Rice, he's going to be on, some kind of a suspension list. Is it going to be 4 games, 5 games, 6 games? Hell, it could be 10 if the NFL gets their way. Who knows? But you're going to have Brownlee, and you get some extra weeks to look at him. The Jalen Royals thing, I have no idea. People thought they were going to throw him on IR. Tendonitis in the knee, it's got to be something different. I am anxious to see what this actually is, because it cannot just be tendonitis. But speaking of IR, they did not throw him on there. They actually threw a couple others on IR, and the big one, Steve, was Najee Johnson. Now, we know that he hurt his shoulder on that breakup in the preseason game number 2 versus Seattle in the end zone. Hell of a play by Najee Johnson. But he hasn't missed any practice over the past few days for this. And then today, magically, Najee shows up on the IR, and they're able to squeeze Josh Williams on. And we thought they were just going to take Najee over Josh because he's the coach's, that's their favorite. They don't let Josh get out of the doghouse. But Josh found a way on. Najee found a way onto the IR. What do you think about that situation? A lot of fans aren't pleased by either one of those things.
I don't know. I hope it was kind of a come to Jesus in the preseason when Nazeeh Johnson was still getting burned by second, third, fourth string guys.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like, hey, this is just not going to work with Nazeeh Johnson. But they like the kid. They also extended him. They like his special teams abilities. So maybe they do want him on the roster, but I don't think they wanted to give up Josh Williams for him. And if you look at the defensive back room, they ended up taking 9 total. And Josh Williams, I think, was the best player to fall at the bottom of that list there. It's not Nazeeh Johnson. So it kind of makes sense to me that they went that route.
As for linebackers, they ended up taking 6. We thought they were going to take 6, and our boy, Coop McDonald, got on the team, Steve. I told you Coop was playing well. We put people on to Coop all the way back, I want to say August 1st, if you follow us on X, at All Chiefed Up, shameless plug. But if you follow us on X, I actually said Spags really likes this kid, keep an eye out, because people were really talking about Brandon George a lot. Brandon George went to IR today. I haven't heard anything about him being injured either, but they're finding ways to do this. The third guy they put on the IR was Jake Brenningstool. A lot of people were confused about that, but yeah, he's been injured. He's been injured since they put pads on. Makes sense. Now, look, I don't think people would have picked up Jake Brenningstool. I still don't. He's a UDFA that wasn't drafted. He's missed all of camp with the pads on. I know we were impressed by him in rookie camp and all this passing camp stuff, but yeah, I don't think with either one of those guys, anyone's going to pick them up off of a drop waiver list and put them right on their 53-man roster. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Neither one of them really played high-quality football there in the preseason. So I wasn't too concerned there, but Brett Veach was jumping through hoops today. And so when we got back, we were the first, besides Coop McDonald, Steve, to say, and maybe the only to say, that Mike Edwards wasn't going to make this team, Steve. Your boy was spot on.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising to me, and I think it was surprising to a lot of Chiefs Kingdom. They went and got him because they needed veteran depth at that position, and I thought he was kind of a shoe-in to me. But I guess you saw what they saw. He's not playing up to par. He's getting a little older. He's getting a little slower, and he just didn't cut the mustard, man. They went ahead and got rid of him for youth, for younger guys.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that we have on the team, Mike, that made the roster, like Chamari Connor and like Christian Roland Wallace, that can play that safety position if needed. So I think they felt comfortable with only taking Brian Cook and Jaden Hicks there as just a safety. You don't have to worry about these other guys because they can kind of rotate these kids around. And I think that opens them up a lot when it comes to that. As far as the linebackers go, we kind of thought they were going to throw Jack Cochran on the IR. Of course, they went ahead and put him on the roster, but I was happy to see Brandon George go to the IR. I think that kid is an insane athlete. He's kind of an anomaly, man. You don't see many guys with a relative athletic score as high as him. The last one I saw was Leo Chanel. So it is nice to keep him around because I think maybe he can be a piece for this team down the road a little bit. But overall, I think the 53-man roster was pretty much just chalk, Mike. I think it kind of went as we expected. I think we only missed like 3 players off the entire thing. And that's just because we weren't really expecting Brett Veach to start jumping through these hoops and cutting some of these veterans like Robert Tonyan and Mike Pennell to squeeze other guys on. But we also knew it was a possibility, and we knew that Brett Veach does try to get creative.
Right. You know it's a possibility, but you can't really predict that. It's very hard to do. So if you look at it, the only one we didn't call out was Brownlee and Elijah Mitchell, and we didn't think they were going to take 8 because we didn't think they were going to drop Robert Tonyan and pull that whole thing. And then, of course, they did the same thing with Pennell. So that's the only lineman we missed on the entire defense. We got all the other ones, and that includes Malik Herring. I kept telling people Malik Herring will make this team. You're not just taking 4 defensive ends.
Right.
So Elijah Mitchell got on probably because of Pennell or however you want to look at that. But those 2 guys went off. Brett Veach found some hoops to jump through, and those 2 got on. I think the other 2 you mentioned, Coop McDonald got on. I was for sure of that. And I thought it was between Cam Jones and it was between Jack Cochran. And Jack Cochran, Steve, we were told was probably going to hit the IR. We got some bad info. He didn't hit the IR. Look, if we knew he was healthy, Spags loves him. He would have made the team over Cam Jones without a doubt. So I don't even count that as a miss because if you wouldn't have got the bad info, we're putting him on there over Cam Jones. And so that just leaves literally the random Nazeeh Johnson IR. And that was out of nowhere as well. So Josh Williams would have been off the team and Nazeeh would have been on just as we suspected. But Nazeeh, goes to IR and Josh gets a bone thrown his way. Speaking of bones and dog houses and everything, can we let the guy play a little bit? If you're gonna do all this to keep him on the roster, can we at least give him some chances? Like for real, like why do you jump through all these hoops and then you're not even gonna let the guy play?
Well, I think that a lot of the fan base thought the most egregious things about this 53-man roster was Bob Tonyan not making it and Joshua Williams making the roster. It blows my mind that Chiefs Kingdom is still under the whole Josh Williams is bad thing. They think he just gets penalties and he's not good. He gets cooked all the time.
You work hard, you play hard, and we know Chiefs Kingdom cheers hard. And when you do that, it's obvious you work up a little stank. You don't have to walk around smelling like Bigfoot's Grab yourself some Mando full body deodorant or some Mando whole body deodorant spray. They even have whole body deodorant cream. You have no reason to stink. We absolutely love Mando, and that's why we partnered with them to bring their goodness to you. There's 4 scents. This bourbon leather here is fantastic. They also have Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport scent. So do you want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula? Of course you do. You can find them at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. But for the best deals, go to shopmando.com. You can pick up a Mando starter pack. It's absolutely perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and you get free shipping. Free shipping is huge. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence head to toe with Mando.
If you actually go watch Josh Williams play, he's got all the intangibles and he plays at a pretty high level. I think he pretty much matches Jalen Watson, or he might just be like a speck below him. But I mean, he is a good corner. He's better than Najee Johnson ever thought about being. So I think this is the way it should have went from day one. Even if you don't put Najee Johnson on the IR, I still take Josh Williams over him on the 53-man roster. So I actually like the way that one worked out there.
Right. We ended up hitting 94% of our picks, like you said, 50 out of 53. Not too bad there. And we did say if you could put on Mitchell, that would be your next running back up over Carson Steele. We were right. We said if you could pick another wide receiver, it would have been Brownlee. We were spot on. And of course, in the CB room, we wanted Johnson to not make the team over Williams to begin with, but we knew the coaches liked it. So that actually worked out in our favor as well. I think the one thing that I didn't like about the entire roster today, Steve, in my opinion, besides Brett Veach taking literally ages off of everybody's life to try to make this work, which is insane. I don't know why he does this. But I think the one move I didn't like is the Najee Johnson to IR thing. In my opinion, it was time to just say, done with the Najee experiment and let him go. I think if you would have dropped Najee Johnson just straight up, don't even mess with the IR, just drop him straight up. I find it hard-pressed to believe that everybody that watched film on Najee Johnson last year, somebody's just going to pick this guy up off waivers and just place him magically on their 53-man roster at corner. I happen to believe if Najee isn't on this team, by the grace of Spags and Andy Reid and Brett Veach, that kid would be playing in the CFL.
Yeah, I really do too. He's not all that great. I love the kid. I think he's a good guy. I think that he's a good special teamer. He's very fundamentally sound, but I just don't think he has it. He don't have it just to be in the NFL. He's missing something, and it's very obvious when he gets out there. Teams exploit him, and that's just a detriment to the team altogether when there's someone out there that opposing quarterbacks can just pick on over and over again. You see it a lot every time we play Buffalo. Josh Allen loves to pick on Najee Johnson. Good quarterbacks will find a weak target and they'll exploit it, and that's just what happens to him. He's the weak link, and I'm with you. I think they should have probably just let him go. But I wanted to kind of talk about some of the other teams' cuts, Mike. There were some surprising ones today out there in the NFL with a lot of players that the Chiefs are familiar with, and also some that I think fit the Chiefs very, very well. So you mentioned earlier that this roster could look completely different a week from now. It absolutely could. They could go out and acquire some of these other guys and mix it up even more. So let's talk about a couple of those, Mike. I think the one that sticks out the most to me, and I know we took 8 wide receivers, but at the same time, the Jets cut Malachi Corley just after his, second season in the NFL? This kid was absolutely insane. We watched him play at Western Kentucky University. He's from Campbellsville, Kentucky, like right up the road from me. This kid's insane. He's that short area quickness guy. Get him the ball, let him work. He fits right into an Andy Reid, Brett Veach style offense. That's the kind of receiver they like. Cookie cutter Chiefs receiver right there. The Chiefs even were interested in him. I think they interviewed him back in that draft process. And here he is, just available. And this could kind of be like the Tyquan Thornton thing where it's like, hey, it just fell in our lap. Let's get him and stash him one way or another. So I think that's a good one to look at. And then, of course, there were some ex-Chiefs that got cut today, talking about MVS, McCole Hardman, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would be super surprised to see someone get a reunion. Brett Veach loves doing that. We do need a little bit of help in the running back room, maybe. And Clyde could be that piece there. I know a lot of people would fall over if that were to happen. But we don't want MVS back around. We don't want McCole Hardman back around. But they're out there. Just keep that in mind.
Right. A lot of Chiefs fans today were kind of mixed on that. They were saying, look, Brett's probably going to do this and we don't like it. Or they were like, hey, it doesn't hurt to put him on the practice squad. They know, they know the whole routine here. They know the playbook. I think we're just done with him. If I give any of those three guys a shot, it would be Clyde, honestly. Like, I would probably let him come back and be that fourth, fifth running back just in case something happens. You don't have to use him a lot, but he is serviceable enough to maybe get you 3-4 carries a game. It's not the end of the world.
Right, and he's familiar with the offense. He fits right in with the team. The team loved him in the locker room, so definitely a thing. Also, Deuce Vaughn was cut. I know that's somebody that a lot of Chiefs fans liked during that draft in 2023. He's a very, very undersized running back, and Dallas could never figure out what to do with him. And one other guy that I would mention that I just think that he's not hit his potential whatsoever, and that's tight end Greg Dulcich. Of course, he kind of had a breakout his rookie season with Russell Wilson in Denver, and then he had some injury issues. He ended up going to the New York Giants, who cut him today. That's a tight end that could kind of move the needle if he could reach his potential. He's just been battling injury. So with the Chiefs kind of looking around and keeping their eyes open and kicking the tires on everything, I think those are some guys they could look at.
Yeah, Dulcich actually led the whole NFL in the preseason touchdowns.
Yeah, he did.
And he got cut. So, look, I like that a little bit. We've talked about Dulcich before, but at the same time, with Tonyan and Wiley both making the team, you're 4 deep. It feels like they're going to probably put Trey Watson on the practice squad because he's a big blocker type. I don't know if Dulcich would come over and go to the practice squad. I don't know if he wants to sign to go to a practice squad, so he probably goes elsewhere. Can I go back and talk about Malachi Corley for just a second? I said that I thought that would be a nice little pickup, kind of like you did with Tyquan Thornton. Well, people attacked in the comment section. Why do you want him? This guy's trouble. He's trouble. Well, come to find out, some random, fan perspective article for the Jets got written about him and how he was a bad teammate. He didn't want to play special teams because he's a diva. And when Devontae Adams come over, he tried to get his number, and Devontae Adams offered him $20,000 for it. And he countered Devontae Adams after making $1 billion. He countered him for $120K, and that somehow made him a bad teammate. So look, I don't care that he challenged a guy on his jersey number. And if he plays special teams, I highly doubt that that's a thing. Like, if he come over to this team and Andy Reid was like, you want to come play for the dynasty that is the Chiefs, you may have to play special teams. He played special teams at Western. I don't think he's opposed to it. So I think that was a hit piece that the Jets, fans or whoever wrote that. I don't put a lot of stock in that. Those kind of articles get written a lot, Steve, and they never really pan out. And by the way, the Chiefs get players like that all the time. We brought over Kadarius Toney.
Now, we don't want another Kadarius Toney, but I think Malachi Corley is not that. And I've also never heard anything about that myself. So I think people take too much stock into certain little things, like you said, kind of little hit pieces, people right here and there, or something to get clicks, but definitely not something to take as the word of God, I don't think. Mike, there were a couple linebackers that were cut today that seem a little bit intriguing. I know, we have that back end. Cooper McDonald surprised everybody and played pretty well. Jack Cochran made the team, of course. But I do think you could still raise the bar in the linebacker room, if I'm being quite honest about it. And I did see that Green Bay released Isaiah Simmons today, and also the Jaguars cut Chad Muma.
Yeah. The Muma thing is kind of interesting. He come out of Wyoming. I'm pretty sure that's where he come out just a few years ago. A lot of people were in on it. Ryan Tracy, RGR, they loved him. We liked him a lot. Pops loved him. Chad Muma, now look, I don't know what he's been doing. I haven't followed his career. Maybe he's a tad bit slow. That was one of the knocks coming out of college. So maybe that's it. Maybe he's a step too late. Maybe he's not big enough or physical enough. I don't know. I haven't really watched a lot of his film to say that, but I would kick the tires on him, or I would like to at least go watch the film on him. I'm sure the Chiefs have scouts and they got all that, that they can pull out of the folder there when he was in that draft class. So they've got all that. I'm still telling you, man, my number one guy I would go through today on is literally probably Damian Martinez. I'm telling you, he come in for a top 30 this year. I really thought the Chiefs were looking at him in the draft process. And of course, he went to Seattle 5 picks before we took Brashard Smith. So if you could pick this kid up, if you could get him off waivers, stash him on your practice squad in 2, 3, 4 weeks, it's possible he could come up and be really good in a pinch if you was to have a guy like Pacheco or Kareem Hunt, that big back that needs to pick up those short yardage situations. Now that you don't have a Carson Steele, Damian Martinez would be amazing at it.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be kind of a smooth move to end up getting Brashard Smith in the draft and then getting Damian Martinez as well for free. Just getting them after the fact. So I could actually see Brett Veach doing something like that, especially with the help needed in the running back room, potentially because of injuries and things like that. You guys get down in the comments and let us know what you think about everything. Who did you think was the biggest surprise cut? And also, do you like the fact that Brett Veach kind of played a little bit of ring around the rosy with the veterans to squeeze on some of these young guys onto the roster?
That's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for subscribing, sharing this with a friend. We'll catch you next time. Go Chiefs.